It's 7:46 and time for our Legal Insider segment with our partners at the Mike Murphy Law Group. Now this time we're answering one of your most common questions about hiring a lawyer and when do you need a lawyer and how to find the right one. Here to answer some of those questions is Aidan Murphy, a managing partner with the Mike Murphy Law Group. So this could be like a multi-part series.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
So let's get into specifically what kind of law do you do?
I practice predominantly in criminal law now, but I sort of balance between worlds. I have a healthy amount of civil litigation, mostly in personal injury, but predominantly now in criminal in Halifax.
Okay, so right after this segment, basically, you're going to be heading into the courts.
Yeah, I have an appearance this morning.
So in this case, you might be the lawyer that we get the one phone call and we're in jail. You're the person we would call in this case.
Yeah, sometimes really, really early hours. I'll get those calls and you're getting out of bed and you're trying to give the best advice you can, but yeah, that demands a lot of time.
For sure. I mean, we're making light of it, but it's a very serious situation. So if somebody was in a situation where they needed to engage the services of a criminal lawyer, I mean, how would they go about engaging your services?
So it's a bit different for criminal than it is for other cases. We've talked about a personal injury, and there you have a bit of time to look around and choose the person that you think is best for your case. In criminal, it's sort of, you know, something happens and you need to respond to it. And so sometimes that period where you're looking is a lot shorter. And in that case, I mean, you can get, like I said, calls at all hours of the night when there's been an incident and you need someone right then and there. And then there's duty counsel if you can't find someone immediately at the hour you need them. But for criminal, you know, it's once that initial incident has occurred and someone needs a lawyer, they'll start calling around pretty quickly. For injury, they might take a little bit longer and find someone that is best for them.
Interesting. All right, you mentioned injury. This is a very slippery and icy time of year when slip and fall accidents are common. When do you know that it's appropriate to reach out to a lawyer?
So generally, I mean, if you've been injured and you don't think it's your fault, most people will figure out that's the best time to reach out to a lawyer. In terms of slip and falls in Atlantic Canada, the law on slip and falls is long, but generally it comes down now to the conclusion that businesses owe folks a duty of care to keep their premises reasonably safe in the winter. And the caveat on that is that in Atlantic Canada, courts take a pretty common sense approach to what that means. And there's tons of decisions where the judge will say, everyone knows in Atlantic Canada that we have some pretty rough winters. Right. And so sometimes in those cases, it will come down to whether or not there is some kind of system in place that the property owner has to salt their walkway or clear their driveway or whatever the case is. But generally, as far as your question goes, and when do people contact a lawyer there, whenever you think that you've suffered an injury and it wasn't your fault, normally that's when people start to approach a lawyer.
All right, we almost have no more time to talk, Aidan, but I'll quickly mention, if you did make that call, let's just say they did reach out to your law firm, what happens at that point?
Yeah.
Somebody picks up the phone and they say, tell me what's going on. Do they take the case immediately? Is there a bit of a period where you hash it out? I mean, this is what I'm asking.
In most cases, at least for personal injury, when someone makes the call, that first question that the lawyer is asking themselves is, okay, is this person at fault? Or is it the business or whoever is being or potentially being sued? That's the first question they're going to ask. And then you ask, well, what are their injuries? And that's sort of a different question. As long as you've called a law firm that handles the case that you are bringing to them, and that's, like we said, I mean, it's like bringing your car, you know, for an auto body repair. You might want to bring it to a specialist rather than, you know, someone that might change tires. And as long as you're bringing it to the right place, and those questions are answered in the proper direction for that lawyer who's taking in the call, usually that case will get started pretty quickly. There's some gray area there where cases you have to take a day or two to consider, but normally they'll get back to you pretty quick.
Well, Aidan, we really appreciate you answering these questions for us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
And we just want to remind you, too, that this segment does not constitute legal advice, that you should reach out to a lawyer if you have any kind of legal questions and take the matters to them. It's 7:51. We'll turn our attention over to Amanda.
This edition of Legal Insiders, brought to you by the Mike Murphy Law Group.